Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
I get to sit down today with Russ and Michelle, and we're going to talk about missions. I can't wait to hear. I know we've talked a little bit in the past, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts and experiences. And I'm excited for everyone else to hear, because as we're trying to get back into global scattering, Narrate has a history of scattering globally, and COVID kind of did some things to that, and we've had some connections, but we're praying more and more about how do we get back into global scattering. And so I'd just love to hear your story and your experience in missions in general. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves or give us an overview of your experience. How'd you like to begin?
Sure. So I'm Russ, and this is my lovely wife.
I'm Michelle.
Yeah. And I would say actually probably what we need to start with is to say we have experiences doing short-term, medium-term, and long-term missions work.
Okay.
So I think most of our time today we'll probably talk about our long-term experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But we've led teams to Mexico, Eastern Europe. We've been individually we went as a couple to Mongolia for 6 weeks.
I was in Poland and Estonia with our son.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you've been in Czech Republic.
In the Czech Republic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
But I think most of our time we'll talk about is our 4 years that we spent in the country of Myanmar.
Okay. Awesome. How did you, what was your first sense of a call into missions? Like, what's that story? Mm-hmm. Is that both of you have your own story, or was it together?
So we'll tackle that one together.
Okay.
I'll tell you a little bit about my story and specifically why Myanmar.
Okay.
So missions, actually, we began to think about that and talk about that as something we would do when our kids got older and were launched, because we didn't want to take kids along with us to that. That was our personal decision.
Okay.
So Myanmar, I would say I actually was introduced to the country back when it was known as Burma. Okay. So in grade school, back in the dark ages when I went to school, we learned about it in World War II history. And one of my favorite movies was set there. The Bridge Over the River Kwai was set in Burma. But it really wasn't on a radar until probably 2007 or 2008, when there was a cyclone that hit and just devastated the country. And it hit our radar and then went away until maybe 2010, when we went to a mission conference trying to figure out what we wanted to do when we grew up. And we went to a session on doing relief work, and they talked about Myanmar and this particular cyclone. And it was like, well, it popped up again. But it's like, we don't want to go there.
How many years removed was that from?
Probably 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then fast forward another 2 years from there, we finally picked an agency that we wanted to go overseas with, and we were what's called an undesignated team, which meant we didn't really know where God wanted to send us, but we wanted to go somewhere.
Okay.
And we had inquiries from different countries around the world, and Myanmar was one of those countries.
It popped up again.
And while we were at our first session with this particular sending agency, we watched videos on all these other teams, and there was this crazy team that was in the country of Myanmar. There's these 3 mid-20-year-old guys riding their mountain bikes through the jungle. They built jumps, and they jumped over each other, and it was like, that's just weird. Yeah, that's not us. We're too old for that. So we kept going through this process, and I called Myanmar my Nineveh. So I made a deal with God. I'll go, but I don't want to go anywhere that's hot. I don't want to go to a big city, and I don't want to go anywhere that there's snakes. So we went to the jungles of Southeast Asia. We lived in a city of 7 million people, and they have Burmese pythons.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, it was my Nineveh, and it turned out to be an amazing experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I will add that those 3 mid-20 guys were married by the time we got there, and they're some of our closest friends.
Wow.
And they supported us through our journey there, and they're amazing people. Mm-hmm. They still ride bikes.
Yeah.
They still over there?
2 of them are.
Okay. Oh,
2 of them are in adjacent country.
Okay. Wow.
Because they can't be in Myanmar anymore.
Okay. Wow. What's would you update us, I mean, maybe since you were there to today, just briefly, I don't know a lot about the situation.
Let's go back a little bit, if we can, and just describe Myanmar in general.
Please do.
So it was formerly called Burma, as Russ mentioned. It has 55 million people, 135 different people groups, most of them with their own language.
Wow.
Burmese is the primary language. It's the national language. The country recognizes 4 main religious groups of Buddhist, which is 88%. It's 6% Christian, 4% Muslim, and Hinduism and a couple others make up the remaining 2%.
Okay.
It is okay to be Christian there, but because it's 6% Christian, it's considered an unreached country for Christ by the Joshua Project. And the reason it's unreached, what we discovered being there is there's a reason some of these countries are unreached for Christ at this point in time. It was one of the most unstable countries in the world from 1962 on, which is the year Russ and I were born. And it's been under strict military rule since 1962. Okay. It's had a violent, suppressive military history. And some of that is with the Christian people groups, but it's not necessarily because they're Christian. It's because the communities and the places that they live and that they call their home states have valuable resources there.
Okay.
And it's also the Golden Triangle area, which is the largest opium and growing and heroin producing part of
the world.
Section of the world.
Okay. Wow.
So there are valuable resources that a military presence might want, and there's also gold and gems and that type of thing that are highly treasured there. It was considered a closed country to foreigners due to the violence up until about 2010.
Oh,
So
wow.
Cyclone Nargis was 2008, as Russ mentioned, foreign aid. So they were a closed country, and with the Cyclone Nargis, 58,000 to 300,000 people died, depending on which source you use. The 300,000 was the international aid. But with that cyclone, international aid poured in, and it really forced that country open to the outside world. And then they were open to outside investment. And we were there, 2014 to 2018 during kind of a golden time of all this money rushing in.
Wow.
And then it was considered a more open country. They were strict in certain areas. We couldn't go to certain areas. We were watched in different places, but it was considered an open country. In 2015, the people elected a new government that was semi-democratic, I guess I would say, and it brought about more positive change. People there were very excited about becoming part of the international world.
Yeah, funny story about being part of the international world. So we went to our local friends. We said, we're so sorry that the best thing we can bring to you is KFC. And they just looked at us and they said, we love KFC. That means we've made it in the world when we get to have fast food.
KFC.
It was like, I'm sorry.
That's the best we can export.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And Burger King hit there before we left too.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah.
Oh, good. So what was your daily like over there? Maybe your weekly?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any kind of routine or specific people you worked with, or what did that look like? You
Yeah,
had 4 years. That's
so we did have some routines that we lived by, and they began as early as probably day 6, when we started doing language learning. And I did language learning the entire 4 years that we were there. All the way from, I mean, when you learn language, one of the things we learned is when you learn language, you have to go back to be like a baby. So we learned how to babble first, babble in Burmese, and then we learned basic words. And you don't start just speaking sentences. I mean, you if you want to really learn language. By the end, actually our last day that we were there, I actually had a conversation with somebody in the airport about complex political and government topics.
in Burmese.
In Burmese.
Oh my
So I did everything from, babbling to being able to do this. So language learning was a big thing that I spent a lot of time doing. While we were there, we started a language center, and that's a whole nother story
Okay.
we can get into later. So we taught English to young adults and to different individuals who maybe wanted private English lessons. So English is important because if somebody learned English and could speak in a relatively fluent manner, they could double their income.
Is that why is that? I guess?
Because they then have they have a skill that allows all these new businesses coming in to interact with the country and to be able to have somebody who can be a staff member that speaks both Burmese and English.
Oh, wow.
So English is the language of business worldwide. It's a language of medicine. Most science is done in English still. So it's important to have.
Skill.
It's a very valuable skill. So that's where we spent a lot of our time. We met and worked with a lot of young people. I also had the opportunity to do private English lessons with the second in command in the Yangon government.
Oh my gosh.
So I went to his house 3 times a week in the morning, and we had breakfast and we spoke English.
Oh my gosh.
So,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
So one thing I would add on there is our purpose for joining the area team was to start a launch team, which was designed to bring new people into the country, new families, and help them learn their language and their culture lessons. So it was determined that it was better to learn language and culture and make your stupid mistakes in a larger community that was willing to forgive. They were forgive your stupidity, basically. Because they were, in Yangon, they were used to foreigners. They knew that we took a lot more work. I called it the foreigner tax when we had to pay more, but we were a lot of work to the local people. And so the new families coming in, we had 3 new families come in and join us. They would spend 1 to 2 years with us prior to going out to join other teams in village settings or with different teams. And if they made mistakes in these small village settings, that could have drastic results for getting God's message across to those communities, and they could be, as we termed it, disinvited to return to the country. Every 90 days we had to go get a new visa, and that was their chance to disinvite us to the country. We found this was a really good method, as 2 of the families went and joined different teams, and one of them became their own team. So, our team taught English. We set up this. We helped set up this language center, and we taught English in the evenings from 6 to 8. We learned language in the daytime, made our mistakes, and traveled the city, and it was quite the learning opportunity.
Yeah. So as Michelle said, this was a closed country, so it's important that you have a valid reason to be there.
Sure.
So for us to be there as English teachers was a valid reason for us to be there. It also gave us the opportunity within the culture, within the Burmese culture, teachers are held at the same level of reverence as the Ponjis, which are the monks that run the pagodas,
Okay.
and you're held at the same level as your grandparents.
Oh, so quite respected.
So very, very respected.
Okay.
So
Wow.
this is Seama Kamimi Joe, and I'm Sea Uyaza. So those were our Myanmar names.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, wow. That's amazing. What did you learn from the local people? What did they teach you?
What did we learn? Oh, we learned so much.
How could you so
Yeah.
You had the Ukinzo story.
So I'm going to tell you about.
just tell us stories the next hour?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's much more interesting to tell stories. I'll tell you, one of the things we really learned was the importance of community and the importance of our role within the community. So if we think about the United States, it's very different when you go into other countries. So there is no police force in Myanmar. There is really no ambulance. There's no healthcare system that's going to help you. They don't have emergency rooms. If you have a problem, you have a problem. So we learned a lot about community, and we learned about our role in community, which was because we were teachers and we had a higher income level than everybody else. We were looked at to buy our goods locally, to support the local businesses that were there. And when I say local, this is within like a 3-street area.
Okay.
There might have been 10,000 people that lived in that 3-street area. But it was, that's where we were expected to rotate our money through. And the way they explained it is that money will cycle through the neighborhood 4, 5, 6 times,
Wow.
helping different families as it goes through. So if we needed a taxi, we really worked hard to hire somebody that was the local person. If we did our shopping, we went across the street to the little store there, or we went down to the market and bought our vegetables there from local folks. We got a lot of food from different people that cooked in their houses and sold it out on the streets.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a big city, but within this larger city, there's pockets.
It's every community has its own pockets. So they have what they call their quartermaster, which is basically they're the informally elected official who solves all disputes
Whoa.
in the quarter.
So how many people are in the quarter?
So that'd be like that 3-4 block area.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah. And they knew who lived where.
They knew, yeah.
And you had to register guests. Foreigners weren't supposed to visit. If foreign visitors were supposed to stay in hotels, they were not supposed to stay with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had to get permission from the quartermaster to live where we did, and
Wow.
yeah.
So my things learned were, it's tied into our local pastors who are our partners. So our language teacher and her husband were local pastors.
Okay.
They were Christian pastors, and they were working on their own church plant. And so, and just as kind of say, they had masters of divinity and masters in linguistics, and they spoke several different languages. So Ashi often said that he was a naked jungle boy when he was growing up until about age 15. And then he became this amazing person for God. And, with knowing 7 languages and 2 masters and all sorts of things. So pretty amazing. But I learned a lot from them. And, one of them I call the Shan story. So we met Shan at a week-long family camp in a mango plantation with about 200 people there.
Okay.
Intense time. He came to us asking for prayers for he and his family. He was going to be baptized later that day. And he knew the next day he had to return to his family, the Buddhist family, who he had lied to about where he was that week. And he had to go tell them about his faith, his new faith, and that he was baptized, which in this culture, baptism was very significant. It was, people debated to be baptized for years. And he was in his mid-20s, one of the top power or bodybuilders in the country. Wow. And he knew he had to return to his family the next day and allow himself to be beaten up by them and shunned. Because he brought shame to his family. Okay, can I breathe here? But what he knew is he had to return to his country. A lot of times foreigner missionaries will take that person into their own realm. But what our local pastors knew is he had to go back to his family. He had to go through this. And he, being shunned and everything, and live with his family, because only then would they see the changes in his life that Christ was bringing about. And only then could he bring them to Christ. And only then could they bring their community to Christ. And we saw this happen over and over again. And it was, that was just one of the lessons we learned from the local pastors. So,
what happened to him? I mean, he went back.
All we know is he went back to his family.
Oh gosh. And you don't have a follow-up?
We did get to see this happen, the same thing happen in another community that I think Russ will talk about probably. Do you want to talk? I don't know.
Sure, we can talk about that one. So Michelle said we saw this happen multiple times. We saw this happen with an individual where we went into a slum area with another friend of ours to, she was running a small outreach for kids.
Local person
running an outreach for kids who were left behind while their parents worked. So these are 3 and 4 year olds who are left at home alone while their parents went to their jobs. And so she ran a little outreach to give those kids a place to go. And this particular gentleman knew that she was a Christian, and he said, I have some questions. I got a book one time and I read it and I have some questions. Can you answer them? Culture is inappropriate for a young woman to answer questions for an older man in the neighborhood. So she picked up the phone and she called Ashi. And we happened to be with Ashi when he got the call. He dropped everything, hopped in a taxi, drove an hour across town, which is about 3 miles. Yeah. It's pretty brutal to do that. And spent the next several hours explaining and answering questions for this man. He then began to attend the home church for Ashi and Acha, and in about a year he committed his life to Christ and was baptized and was shunned by his family.
Wow.
And his wife was probably the most brutal person on him. And we continued to pray for him over that next year after that. And his stepson became a follower.
Wow.
And his stepson and he continued to live in the community. The family saw the stepson and they said, you've changed. We can make money off of you. So they sent him to Malaysia to get a different job and to send money back to the family because he was now going to be a hard worker. And he did it because that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be obedient to your elders. And they thought, well, good, now we got rid of one of the Christians, now we just have to work on the other one. So fast forward now, another year after that, the wife becomes a believer.
Oh my gosh.
And then she begins to share with her community. Now, and these are the areas where we have followed up, there's probably 300 or 400 believers in this slum community. that all go back to the one time that Ashi dropped everything to hop in the car to go answer somebody's questions.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
You know, one of the things I learned there too is that families want the pastors to come in and take the Buddha statue out of their house. They don't want to have to do that. You know, and Buddha, they would bow down to the Buddha every day, and they would make offerings of food to them every day. But they knew they had to remove the Buddha from their house. And the pastors knew they had to do it themselves. And that was a pivotal part in their community when they had to remove that Buddha statue, because then the community would know. And it's just fascinating to watch that happen. Wow. So, yeah, and we visited there in January 2020, and Ashi took us out to the slum area, to the church and community center that they had built. It was like a 2-room, 1-story building, main and very basic. And he said, I'll never forget it. He said, as he opened the door, he said, "This is the first house I've ever built, and it's a house for God."
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we learned a lot from them.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like we could talk about that one for hours.
Yes, we could.
Wow. I guess what was there anything that surprised you, or what was harder or easier maybe than you expected? Did you have any expectation? You're moving across the world. I mean,
well, yeah, you have expectations that you're going to change the world, and that, in our, we committed 5 years. In our 5 years, the world was going to be different, and we were going to come back, and it would all be better. And honestly, it had all to do with God, and we just happened to say, "Yeah, we'll help you." But it really was God's doing the work. So I want that to be really clear as we share all of these stories, that this is all about God. This is we just showed up and said yes.
And came alongside local pastors. Other and I will say, other teammates on our area team were doing church planting, and they were doing it the correct way. Because we were leading the launch team, God had lined up for us to come alongside the pastors, see what they were doing.
But go back to your question. So, is there something that was easier or harder than expected? And I would actually say that learning language was easier. So
really,
so here was a 52-year-old accountant who shows up in Burma. I had tried for 30 years to learn how to speak Spanish. I can ask where the bathroom is, but I can't tell where they tell me to go. I can order beer and I can order tacos. That's about it after all of that. And so we decided we needed to change the way we learned language. So we actually went to a training center that's here in the States that taught you not language, but how to learn language. And they didn't teach you culture, but how to learn culture. Both of these are really pivotal things that we learned before we went, and that we put into play as we got there. So learning language, I mean, like I said earlier, I became like a baby. I had to babble. And
so is it you in like a classroom with other Western people trying to, like, what is this environment like?
So most often we did private lessons with a cha.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did 3 days a week. We would do lessons for an hour, and then you'd have to sleep because your head just hurt bad.
I bet.
And but to practice, then I put myself on 2 or 3 different language routes where I would go out and I would take my words that I knew, and a lot of times I had pictures of what those words were, and I would go and I'd sit in a tea shop with the 6-year-old boy who was serving tea, and we would work on putting sentences together.
That's amazing.
You know, or I would go down to the man who sold newspapers. And especially once I started to learn how to read, I'd go down to the man who sold newspapers. We would read in Burmese, and then we'd read the same article. He would read it to me in English. Wow. So we would do that back and forth.
It really goes back to the community piece you were talking
Absolutely.
about. Just being present with and doing life with people, and you're learning the language and they're learning English, and you're just kind of there doing this together.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful picture.
Yeah, so it really is.
Wow.
So learning language was probably the thing that was easier, but it really has very little to do with me. It has to do with a change in my posture that I took when I went to learn language. And that was from day one, I said, Holy Spirit, I can't do this. I can't do it on my own. You can give me the gift of language, speaking it, and you can give me the gift of language, interpreting it. And will you do that? And that was my prayer every day, to be able to learn language. And God was very gracious and provided the ability to do that.
Do you still have can you still speak Burmese?
Horrible.
Of course.
That's of course, yeah. And what's interesting is there are times now when I'm speaking English and I'm thinking in Burmese.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like I don't have the right English word. I mean, like today when I said ponji, and it was like, who's the ponji? Who's the ponji? It's the English word for that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So, so back to the original question of surprises.
Okay.
I was surprised at how kind our neighbors were. They have a culture that warmly welcomes in foreigners. Even despite being a closed country, they warmly welcomed us in. And their eagerness to be part of the global world was surprising. Their amazing food. We have rarely found food as good as what we have there.
Ooh, what is it like?
A lot of fish and spices. It's a poor country, so it's rice based, and in the poor sections they use a lot of spices. Sometimes all they eat is rice in a day, but they put all these amazing spices that just grow in their community into it, and unbelievable.
Wow.
And living in a tight community with our teams and other teams, Western teams, and teammates, and bonding with them and living in community with them, have never been able to replicate that here. Living in a community with God as the basis was unbelievably natural there. Let's see. Can we talk about things that were harder?
Yes, absolutely.
The intense heat, the brutality of some of the events that happened around us while we were there, including a massacre of a nationless Muslim people group. Also living near parts of town that we traveled through either on foot or by car, where as recent as the 1990s and 2007 massacres had happened.
Wow.
Brutally.
Yeah, thousands of students were brutally murdered and sunk to the bottom of a lake. Their families don't know whatever happened to them.
Or burned. By the next morning, in crematoriums, by the next day. Celebrating sunrise service at the lake where they were drowned was an intense experience for me.
That was a sunrise Easter.
Yeah, sunrise
Oh my gosh.
Easter service. Yeah,
Were
it
these
was very
Christian
intense.
students or what?
They were Buddhist
Buddhist
Burmese.
students that were just rising up against the repressive military government.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were just murdered for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and monks.
Gosh.
Monks were as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and living near those sections where blood had been shed was very humbling. and thought-provoking at the amount of forgiveness that God has to have for us. When he takes on, we say he takes on the sins of the world, and you just live in the place, and where great sins have happened. It at times was overwhelming. So
yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, the people we knew wanted peace. I would say 50 million of them want peace and to live in the international world. They have gone back into to basically being a closed country again since 2021.
Okay.
So that's why we have no teammates in country right now.
They all had to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, between that and COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, and some had to... they had neighbors saying, come to him, say you've got to leave now. The army's coming, they're 3 blocks away. But they were prepared. They were prepared. They had their go-bags ready, and they had their route picked out, which is something we had to do there. We had to know how to leave in those situations. And so they all were safely... they all left the country safely.
Wow.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like that leads into the next question I had was, and I know we've already talked about this, but if there was a specific story you wanted to share, like how did God show up in those times, or where did you see God moving?
Yeah. So we have a couple different stories again, because that's the way we really share what happened.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you just brief stories where God said yes and where God said no. And he was very present in both of those. So we talked about the Learning Center.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we brought, so for those of, because you can't hear me, you can't see me on the podcast here, just anticipate a big grin on my face. So we brought all of our great business skills and spreadsheets and the ability to write business plans and develop marketing. And we put together, we had this series of meetings with Ashi and Acha about what it would look like to have a language center. And we came up with a funding plan and a capital stack and spreadsheets, and it was beautiful. And we sat down and we presented it all to Ashi and Acha, and they said, "Uyaza, that's everything that we said, and that's nothing that we want.
We can't
do that. We just can't do that." And we had made a commitment personally of some funds to help things go, and we said we really can't ask our friends to fund this without having a well thought out business plan. But Michelle and I had prayed about it, and we felt very
and they did too
strongly up that we needed to do our commitment of funds. So we spent a week, we prayed. We didn't talk at all about any of this topic, and when we came back together, it was Acha, Ashi, and one of their church leaders, and me that were in the room, and we were having a conversation, and Michelle walked in, and she said, "The Holy Spirit is here," and it was just, we had this absolutely miraculous thing that was, we were going to put this together. It's going to change. The plan changed, but it was going to be their plan, and we were just going to come alongside them. And we said, great, we're going to commit our funds, and everybody agreed. And one of the things we did learn from Ashi especially is he would hold his hands open, and there was nothing in his hands, and say, "This is all we have," which is nothing. He said, "Yaza, well, this is all we have. I have faith that this is going to work." And we said, great, our business plan says it's not going to work.
We didn't tell them that.
I know.
We did not tell them that.
Spreadsheets.
But we figured we would have
But it was like, okay, well, we're going to learn faith from Ashi. And so in Myanmar, you have to pay your rent a year in advance. So we had to pay for a year's rent, which we did.
On the Language Center.
On the Language Center.
Okay.
And we said, and you had to do that in your residence too.
That's true.
Yeah. And we said, if there's money left over, then God has blessed and been faithful, then this is going to be a great business. Months before, we were short. And it was like, there's no way we're going to get any of this money raised.
Mm-hmm.
So we prayed for the next month for money, and then we opened the safe, and there was enough money.
Oh my gosh.
Our safe made money.
Our safe made money. We don't know
somehow.
how.
We don't know how, but it
What?
happened.
But there was
Time and
enough
time
money
again.
to be able to pay the rent.
Oh my gosh.
And
wow.
so that was an example of when we saw God show up in faith. And then, so that's one of the times that God said yes. We mentioned before our friends that were the crazy mountain bikers that came and
The guys.
they got married.
Yep.
Well, one of them, their whole plan was to go back to a particular city. I'll just call it Port City. And what happened is that in Port City, there was a genocide that happened there. And it was extremely unsafe to be able to go back to do any work.
Uh-huh.
And but this is where they had always wanted to go. So they were just devastated, and they were like, well, how can God say no to us going back to work with the people that we were going to go work with, that we love? And so they went to another community that's just not far from there, and it's called Beach City. And so they went to Beach City. They got off the plane there, and they said, oh, we see what God's plan is. So when God said no to Port City and he opened the door for Beach City, then an amazing ministry that happened there in this jungle community where they were probably the first foreigners since the British occupation to live in this particular village.
Which would have been the end of World War II.
In World War II, 1948 is when the British left.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they moved in there. We had some of our teammates that when they were ready to launch, they went there.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a great ministry that happened in Beach City.
And they opened up their own learning center.
Yeah.
And
So they would have a visa platform.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They worked with local pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was just a great ministry that happened there. So when God said no one place, that door literally did open in another spot.
In another spot. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
yeah.
Gosh.
So I would say, I don't know where it happened, but God showed up somewhere along the line in all these stories. And I lost my overconfidence that I knew how to do things and that I could show them how to do things. And I lost that. I lost it in that overconfidence in my ability. And it was replaced with courage, faith, and humility braided together. And with those, I carry those, I still carry those with me now, because that's how I can face some of the, it's how I could face some of the barriers that we felt and the fear that we felt there, or I felt there as a female. And it's how I face my adventures now. It's how I face going to the Czech Republic by myself and doing a couple other things by myself. But it helped me to get into taxis with men I didn't know, taxi drivers I didn't know, to drive to drive for an hour with them across town to teach in a place that I only knew I could recognize where they were going to drop me off. And it's just, God showed up. I would pray on the way there, and
You say courage, faith, and humility.
Courage, faith, and humility. And recently there's been another one that's been combined with it, which is it's some sort of combination of joy and love for God, from God. And, it's a two-way thing. Right. I don't quite know what the word is, but it's a new thing that's been added to it.
Is there a Burmese word?
No, I don't think so.
No, not really.
Not really?
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah.
Maybe there is, but yeah.
Wow.
But it's braided together. It's a very strong thing that coming down here to do my first podcast ever, that's why I'm sitting here, is those 4 words.
That's beautiful. I love that. Is there any like funny moments? Cross-cultural moments.
We have amazing, funny, stupid things that we did. So many. And so the one I'll tell you that I think is hysterical because I was a little more adventurous and thought I knew everything, and I was great at language and all that. So we were in the process of still learning to babble, and we were beginning to be introduced to what letters look like and what numbers look like. So they don't use the Romanized alphabet; they use a Burmese alphabet, which is everything is roundy. That's what they would say. Everything's roundy.
I don't even know if I can visualize it.
I'll write something for you sometime.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and so I was out for a walk one day, and there was a sign up in front of a house, and there was a tent and a table there, and there were people sitting at the tent, or sitting at the table under the tent, and there was a sign, and I could tell that it had letters and numbers, and I was like, great, we have a new place I can go and eat. This is awesome.
Great.
But I need to have a Chaco with me to tell me what's on the menu. So the next language day, we walked over, and I said, I need you to explain to me what I can order here. And she
just looked at you.
She got up there, she looked at me, and she goes, Yasa, why do you think this is a restaurant? I said, well, look, there's numbers and there's letters. And she goes, no, this is a funeral.
Oh my God.
The letters are the person's name, and the numbers are how old he was when he died.
Oh,
you can't eat here. And she thought it was hysterical.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So then we went to the tea shop, and we had the normal tea shop.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So many mistakes, but so mine was being a Western woman, and I was 50, in my mid-50s at the time. I stuck out like a sore thumb, and I did not color my hair, still the white hair. And being older, I was highly respected, which was wonderful. And I would come up, I would almost daily have to cross this busy 6-lane street that was just with buses and cars, and they don't stop at the crosswalk for pedestrians like the fabulous drivers in Helena stop. So I would get up to this crosswalk, and I'd have to, I call it chicken running sometimes. But I would get up there, and people would see me coming, and they'd wait for me. And at 5'4", I was taller than a lot of them, so I kind of stood out in multiple ways. And they would crowd around me, but make me prominent. And then I would step my foot off onto the street, and the cars would stop. And then we would all cross in a group together. And part of this was that there were higher fines for drivers if they hit a foreigner.
Oh my gosh.
So it was always kind of humorous to see what would happen when I had to cross this street.
Let's stand by her.
Yeah, and sometimes the aunties would hold their umbrellas over my head if I forgot my umbrella for the day. And it just was, we'd have a procession across the intersection. It was really kind of funny.
Gosh, that's amazing. I could talk to you all day, but I just had a couple more questions for y'all. How has serving cross-culturally shaped and formed your view of God or your view of people? I know we've kind of talked about that one, though.
Yeah. You want to
Is there
answer
anything
that one?
you wanted to add?
Let's see. I guess I would just say I am forever changed by this experience. That, we lived, breathed, and had our being in Christ there. That's what I would say.
So I would say for me, one of the things that it really did is it helped me to understand the difference between right, wrong, and different. And if you can imagine that right and wrong when you live in one worldview are really close to each other. And different is just that little bit of gray that's in the middle. You go to a different culture and all of a sudden right and wrong go way out to the far edges. And everything else is just different. There still are absolute rights and there still are absolute wrongs, but it's helped me to become more loving and more adaptable and more accepting of difference.
Which is an important thing even where we live now, where we live in the world now, especially now, maybe be appreciating of that difference. That's really good. What did you learn about prayer? Has that changed how you continue to pray?
Yeah, so I learned a lot about prayer. We talked about when we went and learned how to learn language. Well, we also learned how to learn culture and some of the things we were going to face, and that there were going to be times where all you could do was to barely utter a prayer. That you were in such desperate situation. And we were taught probably the most important prayer that I continue to use today, which is Father, help. When you can do absolutely nothing else, just say, Father, help. That's what I learned about prayer, is that it gets down to just those two words.
Which is very much like the book, the praying the Psalms book that we're reading, of the first language that Eugene Peterson talks about, the that first basic language.
Right.
That really, that's what prayer is about. It's like babbling to God. And we have to learn to babble first.
And God hears.
Yeah.
That's so good. Did you want to talk about what life looks like for you now?
No.
Great, next question.
Okay.
No.
Would you ever go back into the mission field?
Or
the international mission field, I guess.
So I don't see ever going back to being full-time, long-term in the mission field. But for me, I would like to find a way to bring short-term teams out into the mission field, to spend some time intentionally with people so that they understand what it's like to go there. When having led short-term teams, we find that a lot of people go and we're going to save the world.
Right.
I'm going to
change the
convert
world.
all these people, and
Here's my track.
I got my track, and one of the things we would see is so there's a couple things when new groups would come into Yangon, and it's like, okay, all the pastors would just sigh, and it's like, we've got to go undo all that work, all that misinformation that just went out there. And then we would see the local people just laughing at the foreigners as they came in. So what they would laugh about is, so in English we have one word for love. Love. Yeah. In Greek, we know we have like 5 or 6 different words. Well, in Myanmar, there's 2 words for love. Most foreigners don't learn the second word. They only learn chitte, which is love. What they don't understand until you learn the culture is that chitte is the type of love that you have between a man and a woman, and it's a hot, passionate love. So if you said chitte, so I could say that about Michelle, but I would not say that about anybody else.
Or like chocolate.
Or chocolate. They would be like, what? Yeah. In fact, they would never say that about food. Yeah, they would say jaite. Yeah. And but what we found out is that there is a different word for love, and that's metta. And metta is an ancient Pali word that comes from back at the time of Buddha. And it was the word that was introduced that is God's love for God's people. It's also the same love that a father has for their children. And that most people didn't learn metta.
Wow.
Wasn't in the English or the dictionary.
Wow.
The short version.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there anything you were hoping I was going to ask you that I didn't?
I don't know if I would say I was hoping that we would ask, but I would say I just want to put it out there that for Russ and I to do this work took, I think, about 60 financial and prayer supporters, which we could not have done this work without that. And some of them are in Narrate. Whether they were prayer supporters or financial supporters. One of them, when she heard we were going overseas, said, "Great, I get your dog and I get your daughter." And, she looked after our daughter incredibly well. Well, because our youngest was 19, 20 when we went
20.
20 when we went overseas. And she was still in college. And this friend looked after her incredibly well. So it was not just Russ and I going, it was a community of people. I learned what it meant to live live in the midst of other people's prayers. There were times we knew that we were being prayed for and carried by those prayers. So
I guess the one thing I would say that, I'd want people to know is that don't be afraid to say yes. Whether that's to go overseas or to do something that's here in the States. Don't be afraid to say yes. God's not going to ask you to do something that you're not equipped to do.
Yeah.
It may be a Nineveh moment, but if you remember Jonah's story, it turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes those situations turn out far better than we could have ever imagined. With surprises that God had for us. He was probably just up there laughing a few times going, "You didn't see that one coming, did ya?" So
I love it. Well, thank you guys. This has been a really great conversation. And I really enjoyed hearing your stories.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This was very good for me to walk back through this with your questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. We appreciate it.
Okay, can I say God bless us in Myanmar?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Piadikin Ganji Bebaze. And you would say, Amen.
Amen. If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.